Hello everyone, I am Tessellating Hexagons, and can you believe it? We're almost there. I've nearly reviewed all 41 of this year's entries at Eurovision, and song number 40 out of 41 comes to us from Armenia, so I just need to review this song, and then one more, and then that's it. I'm done until, well, I'll be counting down my top 41 throughout April, and then there'll be the pre-show reviews and the reactions and stuff, but I'm getting ahead of myself, as is my catchphrase this year apparently. For the moment, let's focus on the here and now, and that here and now comes to us in the form of Srbuk Sarksian, or just Srbuk if you're short on time, and the song Walking Out. It's sung entirely in English, music composed by Lost Capital and Tokyo 9, and lyrics by Garek Papoyan, who actually also wrote the entry from 2014, Aram MP3, and Not Alone, if you'll recall. That did really well for Armenia, so you would have thought that would bode well for them this year. Speaking of this year, well, let's see what they're packing this time. It kind of seems like a running theme this year, at least with the Caucasus countries, apart from, okay, so just Armenia and Azerbaijan then, that they release a trailer for their song, and that gets me really excited. We were promised sass, contemporary production values, and a rhythm that I've described in the past as sounding boaty, and to their credit, Armenia 100% delivered on that. And yep, there was something that didn't quite click with me with this song on my very first listen. And that, I recognise, is weird, because I know that I like this sort of thing, and the more I listen to it, the more I do like it. It could well be that whatever my issue is, I will have completely forgotten what it was in the first place if I just listen to it a few more times. Maybe it'll just take me a hot minute to get fully used to this song, you know? Well, as I say, you know, I don't know. Still, I'm most of the way there at present, so that's incredibly promising at the very least. In the meantime, while I'm trying to sort my own weird brain out, let's take a look at what this song definitely does get right that I'm absolutely certain of. Well, for one thing, it might not be quite as obvious as it is in some of the other songs this year, but this is another song with a strong and relevant message. In this case, it's not just about standing up for yourself in the face of abuse, though that is part of it, and it doesn't offer turn the other cheek as its bit of advice, as its quick solution of the day. Rather, Srbuk presents us with a quick lesson in tough love. If you pour all of your love and your energy into someone for ages and ages and ages and they don't treat you accordingly, then if you have the power to do so, don't be afraid of gambler's fallacy. Cut your losses and walk away if you're able to. Lose the battle to win the war, as it were. That's a really good message. Not enough people are preaching that one. And Srbuk herself actually makes for an excellent candidate to deliver that message too. Like, as an artist, she is more than capable of putting on this sassy, strong persona, but that's just the thing. She can come across as sassy and strong and whatever on stage, but as an artist, that is a character. She can put on airs of being that way, whilst still being entirely capable of emotional vulnerability. And that dichotomy is very important to present in a song like this. After all, if you're in the position that she's singing about, you're almost definitely going to feel weak and raw and exposed and all of that bad stuff on the inside, no matter how strong, no matter how sassy of a persona you put on during the day. And the cherry that tops all of this off, judging by the music video, is that I think we can anticipate a very narrative-heavy, very metaphorical kind of approach to the staging that will, in a compelling manner, show her journey from victim to survivor. And that would make this another instance of the live portrayal not just adding to a song's impact, but outright multiplying it. And that can only be a good thing. And finally, I don't really have a fancy way to stick this point in anywhere else, like all my other points kind of flowed into each other, but this is just kind of out there. But this song, as I said, has what I call a boaty kind of rhythm. You know, like in Lindsay Sterling's Lost Girls, or Believer by Imagine Dragons. If you've not heard either of those songs, go and look them up, do yourself a favour, they're brilliant. But anyway, the rhythm feels like a boat, kind of sort of rocking back and forth. And that, and the song's instrumental atmosphere, and the notes of the lead melody, it all comes together into one joyous package to make an instrumental that, by itself, is also highly compelling, even without taking into account Srbuk's voice or the lyrics, the message of the song. So all things considered, Armenia is sending one extremely competent package to Eurovision this year, but I mean, did we expect anything less from them at this point, much less from the guy who wrote RMMP3's song as well, so yeah, Armenia's packing heat. I feel like we shouldn't be surprised by this. Nevertheless though, as I say for every single country in every year's lineup, you don't have to like this song, and I intend to consider just some examples of things that might make you feel that way. For instance, this is another song this year where, at least for me, my enjoyment is kind of hindered somewhat by how difficult it can be, in some places, to keep up with what she's actually singing. That doesn't make it a bad song by any means, it's just, as I've said about several other songs this year alone, you miss out on an entire dimension of the song by not being able to follow the lyrics, and it really rubs salt into that wound in particular when I can't understand them when I'm meant to be able to understand them. Like, if it was in Armenian, I would appreciate, right, this is a language that I don't speak, but if I could speak it, I'd appreciate it, but it's in English. I speak English, so in theory, I should be able to keep up easily, and yet, perhaps, the issue here is in some of the lyrics themselves. Like, don't get me wrong, there are some really, really good sound bites in here, especially the whole "whatever I've built, I'm gonna burn down" part. That really helps for the whole gambler's fallacy imagery. But by that same token, there are some lines in there that, to a native speaker at least, kind of sound a bit clunkily worded. Obviously, the song wasn't written by a native English speaker as far as I'm aware, so that can absolutely be forgiven and understood. It's just that it winds up impairing my understanding and therefore full enjoyment of the song. As well as, depending on how critical you are of the issue, it somewhat undermines the seriousness and gravity of the song's message. Like, a single questionably worded lyric can be all it takes to break someone's immersion, after all. You know, I could be delivering this impassioned speech about the importance of writing words competently, but the moment that I start improvising and saying, oh, well, you should words goodily and good with your words that you do, suddenly I stop sounding credible. You feel? And lastly, at least out of these thoughts, not necessarily out of every possible issue someone might have with the song, because I can't speak for every last opinion out there, there's that old standby of this song has an unnecessary key change at the end. There are some songs that take this old trope and use it fairly well, even in this year's competition, Iceland for example, but this isn't one of them. This is middling at best in terms of usage, simply because the song was building up just fine at that point anyway, so instead of enhancing and uplifting the tone and the mood of the final refrain to make it sound victorious, it instead, at worst, comes across as hackneyed and almost desperate to keep your attention, or at best gives no additional effect whatsoever. I'm not saying that there's no time or place for the whole victory key change thing, I'm just saying you don't need to force one in just because the opportunity happened to present itself. This song was fine without it. Instrumentally, it was building up just fine to a suitable climax. The key change detracts from that. Please tell me I'm not the only one who feels this way. Well, that issue aside in any case, let's turn my thoughts into numbers. Now, this might surprise people based on my tone just now, but I give this a personal rating of 9 out of 10. I'm so close to being in full-blown 10 out of 10 territory, or tenritary for short. But then there's the key change, and then there's the occasional weirdly worded lyric, like, "Are you from those who," whatever, lines, or "You're no more a king because I was your," like that stuff. In the case of the former, I get what is meant, it's just not really how that's said in ordinary parlance, and in the case of the latter, it is grammatically valid, it's just very, very, like, medieval poetry levels of antiquated in terms of grammatical construction. And it impacts my immersion somewhat, as well as, like I said, making it harder to understand what Srbuk is singing, because these are combinations of words that I'm not expecting to hear. I'm hoping that makes some semblance of sense. As for my technical rating, meanwhile, though, I give it another 9 out of 10. Again, it is so close to being in tenritary 10 out of 10 times, but it's just that almost forced inclusion of the key change brings down the level of impact the overall instrumentation has, and those little wobbles in the lyrics have a similar effect on the gravity of the overall lyrical body and message of the song. Neither of those are enough to ruin those aspects completely by any stretch of the imagination, but they are both enough to do a little bit of noticeable damage to their overall credibility, enough at least to add up to that dropping down to a 9 out of 10, but no lower than 9 out of 10. This is still a strong, competent, sassy song, sung by a strong, competent, and sassy performer. It's written well, it's performed well, it's just the occasional blip. So, yeah, Armenia can be proud of this, and that is not up for dispute. Now, here's the real tricky part. Is this a step in the right direction for Armenia's Eurovision strategy? That is not an easy call to make. I'll go with a tepid yes, purely on the understanding that this is a safer bet to do well than Kami was last year. Note, since this is a topic that's come up quite a bit recently in recent reviews, this isn't a safe song by any means. It's just more likely to do well stylistically than Kami was, just by virtue of how it was written and what type of song it is. It could well be that Armenia could hold another national final next year and come up with a winner that could just win the entire competition, but that has yet to happen in their history. And, or so I assume, bigger name artists would be more likely to agree to signing the Represent Armenia at Eurovision contract if they don't have to battle other big name artists in a national final to get that contract first. So, I guess this is good, that they can attract notable artists and then work with them directly to produce strong internally selected entries at the cost of not involving the public at all. Maybe? The raw statistics seem to suggest it's a good move in any case. And you should probably be able to infer from that I do fancy this song's chances of qualifying, yes. As is the case with almost every song this year, I don't think it's absolutely definitely going to leap into the final with no potential difficulties whatsoever. I can imagine a potential future with this as a shock non-qualifier, but this is a viciously competitive year. There are a lot of songs that I could imagine shock non-qualifying, just not all of them at the same time. So realistically, I think Srbuk's sassiness and emotional realness will happily carry this song home easily in Tel Aviv. The juries will like her vocal and performance style, and the public will love the song's presentation and rhythm and compelling stage presence. I think it deserves a spot in the final personally, and I think Srbuk is perfectly capable of making that a reality. But I'm just one opinion, as are you. What do you think? As always, the comments are open, the iCard is available for you to vote in that if you feel so inclined. Do you like the song? Do you not? Do you feel neutral? That's valid too. I want to acknowledge every opinion out there. But that's it for this review, so to Srbuk and to Team Armenia as a whole, I wish you the very best of luck, and I can't wait to see how you do with this when you step onto the stage in Israel. See you in May.